So today I'm going to talk about the checklist. So before we see what's a checklist, we will see, you can see this cartoon, and before we do any kind of check, the book would look like this. Everything we want to tell the users about the product or the application, and after we do some checks and it looks like this, everything actually the users want to know about the product or the application. So I was talking about this. So before we see what's a checklist, this is this the simple what everything that we want to tell the users about a product or application before we do any kind of checks, and after we do those checks, actually the book would look like this. Everything the users actually want to know about the product or the application. So who's a technical editor? So who's actually who's not very closely associated with the document. So he or she can evaluate the usability of the content, can judge the appropriateness of the content, can verify and test the content, also can read the document objectively from the user's point of view, and can question the inconsistencies. So what is the role of the technical editor? The technical editor actually helps the writers bring the content one, two, or several steps closer to the audience, or to the intended audience especially. So the editorial functions were first defined in 1976 by Robert Van Buren and Mary Fran Bueller in Jet Propulsion Laboratory. So what did they come up with? They came up with this 9 types of edit: coordination, policy, integrity, screening, copy clarification, format, mechanical style, language, and substantive. And they came up with this 5 levels of edit based on the 9 types of edit. So level 1 being the most thorough one, and level 5 being the least thorough one. How? So if you see here, you see level 1, all types of edit have been covered, and at level 5, it's like only 2. So they mainly came up with this to ease up the communication in the publishing house at JPL Laboratories. So what exactly happened? For example, you had, because it involved time and cost, you couldn't afford to do all types of checks all the time. So, when the subject matter expert is like, I'm quite sure that the content is technically accurate, so you just run only the policy check, coordination check, or something like that. So, knowingly or unknowingly, we organizations, we still follow, some or most or all of the checks in our daily life or day-to-day work. For example, if you're checking your content, for any legal checks, running a legal check, or if you're making sure that your document is according to the copyright defined by the company policy and everything, so you're running a policy check actually. So based on these types of edit defined by Robert Van Buren like 40 years ago, we came up with this checklist. I'm going to show you a checklist here. So this is the language. So under language, we run these checks whether the document contains any advertising or marketing language, a technical content especially, and all types of grammar related issues, and you cover under that. And the content is objective, and you miss any punctuation or spelling error. Okay, and then comes the format edit. Format edit is whether your content is according to the template that you have in house, and whether the tables are like running, they span across pages, and the figure is like illegible, or is it okay? So all those such issues that you cover under format edit. Functional edit, of course, it's a crucial one. So what do we do here? You make sure that the content is clear, comprehensive, and correct, whether you have introduced too many flag text or whether you haven't used one where it is required. So these functionally, whether the content is correct, clear. So those kind of checks that you run under functional edit. Substantive edit. Substantive edit is, again, it's a thorough one. When you are doing a thorough edit or review, you make sure that the document is cohesive, concise, and consistent, and the information is structured correctly, and the steps are constructed very well. And integrated edit, when you have a cross-reference in your documentation, you make sure that the topic actually exists. And so these are the edit categories. And mechanical edit is something that you have a style guide in house, or you follow one. You make sure that the content is according to the style guide. So what I think is that I advocate these edit categories, or the checks that we checks in our for a group of writers we have. So what these actually the first thing here is that it need not be only for editors. It could be used as a checklist for even writers. So you make sure that, depending on your requirements, you use this. For example, as I was saying earlier, now if the subject matter experts feel that, okay, the content is absolutely fine, the technically it's absolutely accurate, you don't have to run any other check, so just do a language check, then you would run only that. Or if you think some content requires and you have some time left, you could do a thorough substantive edit. Okay, so also it also helps writers or editors be acquainted or familiar with this editorial functions that were defined earlier, and they, some of them, they still hold true, and helps us produce actually quality content to the user. And back to the slide, I have a reference here. One moment. These are the two sources. This is a very good book on technical editing by Judith, and I would strongly recommend that. And you have a paper, the levels of edit, that was produced in 1980. The second edition got released. You could see that citation. I could ping these links in the group. I mean, yeah, in the chat window. Happy editing. Thank you.